In early 2025, a bloody tragedy shook the quiet town of Covington, Georgia, claiming the life of a young husband, Liam Miller. The young man, known for his kindness and hard work, was brutally murdered right in his own bed. The killer struck while he was deep in a sound sleep, utterly defenseless. Even more horrifying, this savage crime was not the end. It was merely the beginning of an indulgence, a coldness so inhuman. What truth was truly hidden beneath the veil of this seemingly happy young family? The morning of January 15, 2025, in Covington began like any other, with the distant chirping of birds and the warm morning sun slipping through the gaps in the leaves. Kevin, Liam's cousin and the sole employee at his Miller Mobile phone shop, had been at the store since 7 a.m. He cleaned, straightened the glass displays, and waited for his cousin's arrival, just like always. But 8 a.m., then 9 a.m., rolled by. The garage door across from the shop, where Liam always parked his motorcycle, was still shut tight. Kevin started to feel anxious. Liam was a punctual man, he never came in late without notice. Kevin pulled out his phone and dialed Liam's number. Voicemail. He called again and again, met only by endless, unanswered ringing. He tried calling Eva Morgan, Liam's wife, but her phone went straight to voicemail. A bad feeling began to creep over Kevin. Maybe they had gone out of town and forgotten to tell him? Or was their child sick? Deciding not to wait any longer, Kevin locked up the shop and drove his car straight to Liam's private home, only about 10 minutes away. The small house sat on a quiet cul-de-sac, its white picket fence still securely latched. Kevin called out, "Liam. Eva." No answer. He pressed his ear to the door, trying to listen, but inside there was only a dead silence. As he looked closer, he saw Liam's house slippers still by the front door. He was sure Liam was home. His gut told him something was wrong. Kevin pushed the gate, which was thankfully unlocked. He walked to the front door. Locked. He walked around to the back. A kitchen window was slightly ajar, unlocked. Without a second thought, Kevin climbed through the window and jumped inside the house. The air inside was cold, and there was a strange odor. He called his cousin's name one more time, his voice trembling with fear. Kevin cautiously climbed the stairs to the bedroom. The door was slightly open. He pushed it slowly. The sight before him made him freeze. Liam was lying in bed, the covers pulled up to his chest, looking as if he were asleep. But his position was all wrong. His head was tilted to one side, his face a horrific shade of blue. Kevin rushed forward, shaking his cousin's body hard. "Liam! Wake up, man!" But Liam's body was cold and stiff. His eyes were still closed, but life had completely left him. Beside the pillow, a small nylon cord, the kind used for a clothesline, lay discarded. Kevin screamed hysterically, then staggered back and fell. Trembling, he fumbled for his phone. His fingers panicked on the screen, finally managing to dial 911. Less than 15 minutes later, the sound of police sirens shattered the cul-de-sac silence. 2 patrol officers were the first to arrive. They quickly confirmed the situation and immediately put up yellow police tape around the house, asking curious neighbors to keep their distance. The criminal detective team, led by Detective Marcus Cole, a seasoned investigator, arrived shortly after. Detective Cole entered the scene, his sharp eyes scanning the entire room. He missed no detail. The CSI, Crime Scene Investigation, team, dressed in white protective suits, began their meticulous work. The sound of camera flashes was constant, documenting every corner of the crime scene. They carefully dusted for fingerprints on doorknobs, the window, and a glass of water on the bedside table. The medical examiner, M.E., gave a preliminary conclusion that Liam had been dead for 8 to 10 hours, placing the time of death around midnight. The cause was almost certainly asphyxiation by ligature. There was a deep ligature mark on the victim's neck, matching the cord found at the scene. What was notable was the complete lack of any signs of a struggle. The sheets and pillows were not in disarray. The victim was apparently attacked in his sleep, without a chance to fight back. Detective Cole ordered the cord to be secured for DNA and fingerprint analysis. The glass of water was also sealed to be tested for sleeping pills or sedatives. Liam's phone, lying on the table, was secured by the tech team to extract his last calls and messages. One huge question immediately arose: where were the victim's wife and child? The closet showed signs of being ransacked. Several sets of Eva's and her child's clothes were missing. The Honda Civic that Eva usually drove was also gone from the house. This sudden and suspicious departure immediately made Eva Morgan the primary suspect. As Liam's body was carried out in a body bag, the The neighbors were already crowded around, whispering. They couldn't believe the kind, friendly young man had met such a tragic end. Detective Cole stood silently, staring at the sealed house. In his mind, the first pieces of this puzzle were beginning to form. This wasn't a robbery gone wrong. This was personal. And the key might be on the run with the killer. The interrogation room at the Covington Police Department was stuffy and thick with the scent of grief. The light from the fluorescent bulb overhead cast a cold white pallor, adding to the grim atmosphere. Detective Cole sat opposite Kevin. The young man was still in shock, his red-rimmed eyes staring blankly at an unseen spot on the gray wall. Beside him, a styrofoam coffee cup had long gone cold. "Kevin, I understand this is an incredible shock for you," Detective Cole began, his voice low and sympathetic. "But we need you to stay calm and help us clear a few things up. Any detail, no matter how small, could help us find justice for Liam." Kevin took a deep breath, trying to choke back a sob. "He was my cousin, sir. But more than that, he was my best friend. We grew up together." He began to talk, his voice faltering. He spoke of Liam as a hardworking, kind man who always dreamed of building a better life for his family. Liam loved Eva so much, he practically worshipped her. When they first got married, he was smiling every day. He told me finding Eva was the luckiest thing that ever happened to him. "When did their life change?" Cole asked, his eyes locked on Kevin's face. "About a year ago, sir. Right after Eva started working as a real estate agent." Kevin explained that at first, Liam was very supportive of his wife's job. He was proud to see her so dynamic and sociable. But that happiness didn't last. She started to change. She was buying more luxury items, designer bags, things there's no way Liam's salary could afford. Then came the meeting client sessions. At first, it was once or twice a week. Then, slowly, almost every night. Kevin recalled the times he'd stayed late at the counter, watching Liam sit alone in the dark, holding his phone, calling his wife over and over, then sighing when the calls went unanswered. There were nights she'd come home at 1 o'clock or 2 a.m., smelling of alcohol and men's cologne. If Liam asked, she'd get angry. Said he didn't understand the pressures of her job. She said she was doing it all for the family, so their son could have a better life. Did they fight often? All the time. I overheard them arguing on the phone several times. Mostly about money and her coming home late. Liam just wanted her to spend more time with the family. Their little boy was being raised almost entirely by his father. But every time he brought it up, Eva would accuse him of being selfish, jealous, and unambitious. Kevin hung his head, his voice dropping. "About a week ago, Liam told me he suspected Eva was being unfaithful. He said he was going to find out the truth. I told him to stay calm, but, his eyes, all I saw was pain and determination." The interrogation paused as Liam's parents, Mr. and Mrs. Miller, were brought in. The mother had already fainted several times and now had to be supported. She was weeping silently, the grief of a mother who had lost her child etched onto her wrinkled, tormented face. The father, though trying to remain strong, was slumped, his eyes hollow and empty. They were taken to another room. Detective Cole waited patiently until the mother was slightly calmer. "Mr. and Mrs. Miller, we are so deeply sorry for your loss. We promise we will do everything to find the person responsible." Mr. Miller, Liam's father, spoke with a tremble. "My son, he was a good boy, detective. Never caused anyone trouble his whole life. He just wanted a happy family, a peaceful life. What was so wrong with that?" Mrs. Miller chimed in, through her sobs, "That Eva, that girl. At first, she was so sweet, so polite. We were so happy our son had found a good wife. But ever since she started working in real estate, she became someone else. She looked down on Liam, thought her husband couldn't make enough money. She even tried to convince my son to sell his grandfather's inheritance land to invest with her. But Liam refused. They had a terrible fight over it." Detective Cole listened intently. Each testimony was a puzzle piece, slowly forming a complete picture of a tragic marriage. He asked, "When was the last time you spoke to Liam?" The question seemed to touch a painful memory. Mr. Miller looked at his wife, then back at Cole, his voice catching. "It was the night before. He called us." His voice was strange. Full of anger, but also despair. Mrs. Miller continued, weeping. He said, "Mom, Dad, I can't take it anymore. I found out the most terrible thing about Eva. She's betrayed me so cruelly." He said he had enough proof and was going to confront her the next night, last night, to settle things. "We told him to be calm, not to do anything reckless. But he wouldn't listen. He just said he had to end this. And then we couldn't reach him again. The parents' testimony was the key. It confirmed Liam knew about his wife's infidelity and was preparing for a decisive confrontation on the very night he was murdered. Eva Morgan's motive was now clearer than ever. She acted to silence her husband, to cover up her double life and her dirty secrets. Detective Cole thanked the family and promised to have results soon. As they left, the room felt even heavier. He turned to his officers. Check every connection Eva Morgan has. Friends, colleagues, especially any male clients she met in Atlanta. At the same time, verify the parents' story, track the last call between them and Liam. It's clear now, Eva's disappearance isn't a mystery. It's a planned escape. But where could she go? And how could a woman do something so cruel to her own husband? The real investigation had only just begun. Over 800 miles away from Covington, separated by several states, Key West, Florida, was bathing in the glorious afternoon light. Golden sunlight danced on the turquoise-blue surface of the sea. At the island's most luxurious beach club, the gentle rhythm of deep house music blended with the calming rush of the waves. The sea breeze carried the scent of salt, rustling the palm trees and stirring the fluttering white cabana curtains. In the middle of this paradise, Eva Morgan was lounging on a chaise by the infinity pool. She wore a vibrant red two-piece bikini, highlighting her smooth white skin and the stunning figure she was always so proud of. Her face was hidden behind designer sunglasses that covered nearly half her face, but they couldn't hide the satisfied smile on her lips. In her hand, she held a cold mojito, condensation dripping down the glass. Everything around her radiated luxury, pleasure, and total tranquility. Beside her was a young man, perhaps in his early 20s, named Leo. He was a tourist from New York with bleach blonde hair and a tight, tanned body. He had been captivated by Eva's beauty and mysterious aura from the moment she'd stepped onto the plane from Atlanta the previous morning. He had made the first move, and Eva, without a moment's hesitation, had gladly accepted. "What are you thinking about, beautiful?" Leo asked in a teasing tone, his hand gently landing on Eva's waist. Eva shivered slightly, but not from fear or disgust. It was a pleasant sensation. She turned, removing her sunglasses, revealing sharp eyes polished with perfect makeup. "Nothing," she answered, her voice sweet as honey. "I'm just enjoying this moment. This place is incredible, like a dream." It wasn't a lie. For Eva, this truly was a dream. A dream she had long craved. A liberation from her old, stuffy, suffocating world, which she had left behind. In her mind right now, there was no image of Liam with his blue face or that nylon clothesline. No. That memory seemed to have been erased, or rather, intentionally suppressed into the deepest corner of her mind, locked away, the key thrown out. Instead, her mind was filled with comparisons. She compared the salty sea breeze to the smell of Liam's sweat after a long day of work. She compared the modern music pulsing here to the old country songs her father-in-law often played. She compared the expensive cocktail in her hand to their simple, repetitive dinners of boxed macaroni and cheese. And she compared Leo's new, passionate touch to the familiar, boring intimacy of the husband she had once promised to love for life. Every comparison gave her a feeling of triumph. She had gotten away. She was no longer the wife of a poor, used cell phone salesman. She no longer had to listen to nagging about coming home late. She no longer had to face Liam's suspicious, jealous stares. She had cut the cord that tied her down. With her own hands. Literally. What about her son? Did the child even cross her mind? Yes, but only like a small ripple on the surface of a calm lake. He'll be better off with his grandparents, she told herself. I have to live my own life first. Later, when I have enough dollars, I'll come back for him. It was the perfect lie she had crafted to soothe what little conscience she had left. A rationalization for her boundless selfishness. Her phone, a brand new iPhone, lay face down on the table. It had vibrated several times today. Calls from her mother, from Kevin, from unknown numbers she assumed were the police. She ignored them. She had destroyed her old SIM card and bought a prepaid phone as soon as she arrived in Florida. Her old world could no longer reach her. She was a new person in a brand new place. Leo whispered in her ear, "The sun's about to set. The sunset here is incredible. After that, dinner at the seafood place, then a party at the reggae bar. How's that sound? I've already booked a private bungalow with a pool, just for us." Eva smiled. A smile that was provocative and full of promise. She leaned her head on Leo's shoulder, her slender fingers tracing circles on his chest. "Whatever you want, baby." She didn't need to think about tomorrow. didn't need to worry about the past. She just needed to live for this moment. For the endless party. For the men who would willingly kneel at her feet, serving her like a queen. She didn't just kill Liam to cover her affairs. She killed him to set herself free. And now, enjoying that freedom, she felt not a single shred of regret. Only joy. As the last light of dusk fell, painting the Key West sky in fiery shades of orange and red, Eva and Leo left the beach club hand in hand. She melted into the crowd, into the vibrant music, and the flashing neon lights of the island that never slept. Behind her, in Covington, a family was shattered by grief, and a massive manhunt was about to begin. But Eva didn't know. Or rather, she didn't care. She was busy with her new life. A life built on her husband's grave. While Eva was lost in her Key West party, back at the Covington Police Headquarters, Detective Cole and his team were working relentlessly. The wall of the investigation room was now covered with diagrams, photos, and notes connected by red string. In the center of the board was Eva Morgan's driver's license photo. Her smile in the picture now seemed so fake and terrifying. "Any new developments?" Detective Cole asked, his voice hoarse from lack of sleep and too much coffee. A young officer from the tech analysis team reported. "Yes, Detective. We've extracted all the data from the victim's phone. There are countless argumentative texts between him and his wife, especially in the last 3 days. Liam sent over 50 calls and nearly 100 texts to Eva without a single reply. We also found several photos in the recently deleted folder that the victim had taken discreetly. They're pictures of Eva leaving various hotels in Atlanta with different men. The timestamps are all from the week before the murder." "So the family story is accurate," Cole nodded, rubbing his tired face. "The victim had proof and was preparing for a confrontation. The motive is solid." Another investigator spoke up. "We've also coordinated with the real estate office where Eva worked. Her director said Eva was a very proactive employee, but not in a positive way. She was willing to do anything to close a deal, including accompanying clients late into the night and having inappropriate relationships with both clients and male colleagues. They gave us a list of men she was frequently in contact with. Most of them are married and seemed terrified when we called." "Good. Now for the most important question. Where is she?" Cole stared intently at the map of the United States on the wall. "This is where the tech team shined. Right, Detective? She ditched her old phone, but she made one fatal mistake." The officer pointed to a laptop screen. "She used her supplementary credit card, a card where the primary holder was the victim, to book a plane ticket from Hartsfield-Jackson Atlanta International Airport, ATL, to Key West, Florida, on the morning of the 15th. Just hours after committing the murder. She also used that card to pay for a room at a cheap motel near the Atlanta airport before flying out." Everyone in the room held their breath. The first trail had been found. But she hasn't used the card since. Looks like she realized her mistake and switched to cash. But we've contacted Key West PD and sent Eva's photo to all checkpoints and airports. And we got lucky. He brought up an image from a CCTV camera at the Key West airport's arrival gate. The picture was a bit grainy, but it was unmistakably her. It was Eva, wearing a wide-brimmed hat and sunglasses, walking out of the terminal. This was footage from the morning of the 15th. Detective Cole slammed his hand on the table. "Key West," he said firmly. "A paradise for partiers and anonymity. The perfect place to hide. But not from us." Immediately, a 4-person task force, led by Detective Cole himself, was formed. They couldn't waste a second. They took the earliest flight from Atlanta to Key West. When they set foot on the island, it was already late afternoon. The island was just beginning to light up, preparing for a long night. Detective Cole knew that finding one person in this sea of tourists was like looking for a needle in a haystack. They couldn't patrol in uniform, it would alert the target. The 4 of them, dressed in civilian clothes, split up, carrying Eva's photo, and quietly questioned staff at hotels, restaurants, and bars. Hours passed with no results. The island was too crowded, everyone seemed busy with their own fun. But Cole didn't give up. He trusted his experienced cop's intuition. Someone like Eva, someone who craved pleasure, wouldn't be hiding in a grimy motel. She'd be somewhere luxurious, somewhere worthy of the freedom she had just bought. The team focused their search on high-end resorts. At a luxury resort on the west side of the island, the best spot to watch the sunset, a receptionist recognized the woman in the photo. "Yes, I remember her," the receptionist said. "She checked in yesterday with a young man. They rented a private bungalow with a pool. The name on the reservation is Leo, but he paid for everything in cash. Detective Cole's heart pounded. Are they in the room? I'm not sure, sir. But they're probably getting ready for dinner. Cole signaled his team. No words were needed, the plan was clear. They couldn't storm in and make a scene, which would cause panic among the other tourists. They would wait. 2 officers would cover the main resort entrance. Cole and 1 other officer would circle around back, near the bungalow area where Eva was staying. They waited in the darkness. About 30 minutes later, the bungalow door opened. A couple stepped out, hand in hand, laughing and talking cheerfully. A young man with blonde hair, and the woman, wearing a thin, black silk dress that clung to her body. It was Eva Morgan. Police. Eva Morgan, you're under arrest. Detective Cole's voice was firm, shattering the romantic atmosphere. Eva stopped. The smile on her lips froze. She spun around, and when she saw the men approaching, her eyes went wide with horror. The party was over. The young man named Leo could only stand there, stunned, not understanding what was happening. Eva didn't scream. She didn't fight. In an instant, her mask of confidence and pleasure shattered completely, revealing raw fear. She knew there was no way out. As the cold handcuffs snapped around her wrists, Eva just bowed her head in silence. Her paradise, in the blink of an eye, had become her hell. Interrogation Room 2 at the Covington Police Department was a cold, concrete box, designed to break the human will. There was only a metal table bolted to the floor, 2 chairs facing each other, and a fluorescent light overhead that cast a sick, white glow, hardening every expression. The air was thick, carrying a smell mixed of rusted metal, disinfectant, and years of accumulated despair. The wall clock ticked rhythmically. Tick. Tock. Each sound was a hammer blow to the nerves. It had been 6 hours since Eva Morgan was brought here. She was no longer the Queen of Key West. The oversized orange jumpsuit swallowed the curves she had once considered her ultimate weapon. Her face, bare of makeup, was pale. But her eyes were the opposite. They showed no fear or remorse. They were like a frozen lake, beneath the surface was a cold, dark abyss. Across from her, Detective Cole remained terrifyingly calm. He didn't yell, didn't slam the table. He just sat there, silent, occasionally sipping his strong coffee. His silence was more intimidating than any threat. It was an invisible net, slowly tightening around Eva. On the table, there was a thick stack of files, forensic reports, crime scene photos, credit card statements, testimonies from dozens of people. All roads led to her. We found your DNA on the rope, Eva. A 100% match. We have you on camera at the airport. We have the testimony from your boyfriend, Leo. It's all over. Eva smirked. A barely perceptible smile. Over, detective? It hasn't even started. She took a deep breath, leaning back in her chair. Her posture was that of a storyteller, not a criminal. You want a confession, don't you? Fine. But I'm not going to give you what you want. I'm not going to cry. I'm not going to apologize. I'll give you the truth. My truth. Cole motioned to the stenographer beside him. The most chilling monologue he had ever witnessed in his career was about to begin. Let's start where it all rotted. Poverty, Eva said, her eyes looking far away, as if replaying an old film. Do you know that poverty stinks? It smells like cooking oil used over and over. It smells like damp clothes that never really get dry. It smells like the shame of having to wear torn sneakers from Goodwill to school while other kids show off their new shoes. I grew up with that smell. It stuck to my skin, to my soul. My parents were good people, but they were resigned good people. They accepted poverty as fate. But I didn't. I looked in the mirror every day, and I saw my only asset, my beauty. I promised myself, this would be my ticket out of the mud. Liam showed up. He was a good man, by every mother's definition. Kind, hardworking, didn't drink, didn't gamble. And most importantly, he worshipped me. He looked at me as if I were a goddess descended from heaven. Did I love him? No. I never loved him. But I accepted him. He was a safe harbor, a stepping stone. I fooled myself that love could grow, that I could change him. Change him from a chicken into an eagle. A fatal mistake. The early years of marriage were a nightmare painted pink. He loved me, yes. But like a prison warden. His love was a cage. I'd buy a dress that was a little low-cut, he'd whine, "Who are you wearing that for?" I'd put on a little extra makeup, he'd ask, "Where are you going?" He wanted me to be his. A treasure to be kept in a glass case for him to admire alone. He was proud of my beauty, but panicked when anyone else acknowledged it. Liam's passivity drove me insane. He was content to sit all day in his rotten little phone shop, making pennies. Come home, eat dinner, watch TV, then sleep. That cycle, day after day, was eating my soul. I'd talk about expanding the business, he'd say it was too risky. I'd talk about moving to Atlanta, he'd say it was peaceful here. He had no ambition. And a man with no ambition is no different from a walking corpse. When I started in real estate, it was the first time I could breathe. I realized how big the world was out there. I met successful men who could buy the entire street. Liam's business was on with a snap of their fingers. They didn't see me as property. They saw me as a partner, a challenge, a desire. They talked to me about investments, about art, about trips to Paris, London. They opened the door to the world I knew I belonged in. And then, it happened. Go on, Cole said, his voice remaining flat. The first time. With a client who was buying a penthouse in Atlanta. Almost 20 years older than me, married. After signing the papers, he invited me to the most expensive restaurant in the city. I'd never eaten in a place like that. All steak and wine. After dinner, he took me to a 5-star hotel. I didn't resist. That night, for the first time, I felt powerful. The power of a woman who could make a successful man kneel. The next morning, when I woke up, there was a small box on the table. Inside was a diamond bracelet, and a check for my commission, with an extra 0 on the end. That's when I realized. Liam couldn't give me these things. His love couldn't buy diamonds. His kindness couldn't pay the bill at a 5-star restaurant. I didn't feel guilty. I just felt like I had found the right path. One man, then two, then many. I don't even remember all their names. They were clients, colleagues, sometimes just a handsome man I met at a bar. They gave me money, gifts, and most importantly, they made me feel alive. Not just existing. Liam started to suspect. The stupid man, but not without intuition. He started interrogating, checking my phone, following me. It was pathetic. The more he did it, the more I hated him. He turned into the very thing I despised, a jealous, powerless warden. He couldn't give me what I wanted, so he tried to destroy what I had. That night, the night it all ended. He had followed me. He had photos, had video. Ridiculous, an amateur detective. He called my parents, such a cheap drama. He laid out the evidence, crying, whining, as if he were the world's biggest victim. He wanted pity. He wanted everyone to side with him, to condemn me as a whore. My parents, they just advised, tried to reconcile. They didn't understand. Nobody understood. After they left, Liam's real face emerged. No more pitiful look. He stared at me with pure hatred. He said, "You've ruined my life. I'm going to make you pay. I'm divorcing you. I'm getting full custody of the kid. I'm sending these photos to everyone, to your company. You'll have nothing. You'll go back to the trashy trailer park you came from." Eva paused, her eyes narrowing at the memory. That's when I knew. He didn't just want to leave me. He wanted to destroy me. He wanted to strip me of my only weapon, my reputation and my connections. He wanted to push me back into the mud. He had just signed his own death warrant. When he went to bed, I sat in the dark for a long time. I wasn't thinking. Everything was crystal clear. He was a tumor. And the only way to save the body is to remove the tumor. I went to the garage. Not for a knife, too messy. I saw the nylon clothesline, the kind his mother had bought us. How ironic. A gift from his mother would be the thing to send him back to her. I went up to the room. He was fast asleep, snoring softly. His face in sleep looked so peaceful, so stupid. I didn't hesitate. I looped the cord around his neck, and I pulled. His eyes snapped open in the dark, wide with horror and disbelief. He didn't recognize me until the very last second. He thrashed, his hands clawing at mine. But what is the strength of a dying man? I just pulled harder. I stared right into his eyes until the light went out. I could feel the life slowly leaving his body, like air hissing from a punctured balloon. Then, it was quiet. She recounted the details without so much as a blink. The room seemed to drop several degrees. And then what? Detective Cole asked, his voice still strangely calm. Then I took a shower, Eva replied. The hot water felt good. I washed the smell of him off my body. I picked out my best dress, did my makeup carefully. I took all the cash and some jewelry. I was ready for my new life. And your son? Cole's question, like a scalpel, finally hit the deepest part. For the first time, an emotion flickered across Eva's face. Not regret, but annoyance. As if she'd been asked a deeply inconvenient question. The child, she sighed. He was asleep in the next room. I was going to just leave him. But then I figured if the neighbors heard him crying in the morning, the police would come sooner. I needed more time. So I picked him up. He was still fast asleep. I put him in the back seat of the car. He was an inconvenience. The last burden from this marriage. I didn't flee right away. I drove for almost 2 hours in the middle of the night to my parents' house in the next county. It was almost 3 a.m. I didn't go in. I didn't want to explain. I put the child, still wrapped in a blanket, on their doorstep. I rang the doorbell 3 times, hard, to make sure they'd hear it. Then I got in the car and drove. I didn't look back. I'd returned him to his makers. My job was done. From that moment on, I was a free woman. This final confession was more monstrous than the act of murder itself. It revealed a bottomless selfishness, a complete and total absence of humanity. She didn't see her child as a person, but as an object, an obstacle to be discarded. Detective Cole stood up. He had no more questions. This was more than enough. The trial of Eva Morgan became an event that shook the entire state of Georgia. The media dubbed her the Black Widow of Covington. Every day of the trial, hundreds of citizens gathered outside the courthouse, holding signs demanding justice for Liam. Throughout the proceedings, Eva remained defiant. She treated the defendant's chair as a stage to tell her story of an oppressed life. But her words only fueled the rage of the public and the jury. In his closing argument, the district attorney could not contain his emotion. The defendant did not just kill a man. The defendant killed trust, she killed love, she killed maternal instinct. The defendant is a moral vacuum, a failure of humanity. On the day of the verdict, the courtroom was packed. The Miller family clutched a photo of Liam, sobbing. When the presiding judge read the verdict, his voice was firm. The actions of the defendant, Eva Morgan, are heinous, premeditated, and devoid of all humanity. The defendant cruelly took the life of her own husband, a man who once loved and trusted her. Even more monstrous, the defendant abandoned her own child like an inanimate object. This crime cannot be tolerated, and there is no possibility of rehabilitation. This court of Newton County, based on the evidence and the law, sentences the defendant, Eva Morgan, to death. The sharp sound of the gavel cracked through the room. The courtroom erupted. For the first time, Eva's icy mask cracked. Her eyes went wide, not in fear of death, but in disbelief that her perfect plan for a glorious, free life had ended like this. The kingdom she had built on her husband's corpse had, in the end, become nothing but her own tomb. Thank you for following the case of the Black Widow of Covington to its conclusion. Liam's tragedy and Eva's crimes are not just a story about a murder. They are a bitter warning about how blind ambition can turn a human being into a monster. This case shows that a marriage without a foundation of love and respect will, sooner or later, become a grave. Cherish what you have, because the line between happiness and tragedy is sometimes as thin as a rope.